Well, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for reaching out. I'm looking forward to
Of
getting into
course.
Aurora. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet.
Looking
So
forward.
yeah, so before we get into the album, I want to know, 5 years ago this pandemic did so much, rearranged so many things. We were knee deep in it. How did you survive the pandemic as a musician, and how has it influenced either this album or what you're doing now?
So first, I have to say I was really lucky. Yeah, fortunately, I was still a student when the pandemic hit. I was in my undergrad studies back in Cologne, Germany at that time. I was studying there from 2017 to 2022. So the worst part of the pandemic, luckily, I was, in some kind of safety bubble because of I could live with my parents or, not worry about income
Yeah.
yet. um,
Yes.
so that was really fortunate. I had a lot of friends that were already out in the real life and they were really struggling. But then also, luckily, that state I was in, uh, NRW, West Germany, they had a lot of really good funding going on for struggling artists, which was really surprising. Um, so that was, yeah, for me it was in that regard it was okay, but of course it makes you reevaluate your life. You're not gigging. Right before the pandemic hit, I was really kind of busy in Cologne already, which is a good jazz scene. By the way, I would say it's either Berlin or Cologne in Germany for jazz cities.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was already kind of busy and settled in Cologne at that time, but then the pandemic hit and kind of disrupted everything, and you kind of forced to take a step back and see everything more objectively, and kind of replan your life a little bit in bigger steps in a way.
Yeah.
Um, because when you're just in it and in a flow, you don't really plan ahead so much, which is
Yeah.
good sometimes. But yeah, that pandemic, first of all, is why I moved to New York, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, because you're not so grounded or settled in that one place, you kind of think about bigger things, and then my professor recommended applying for that scholarship and going there for grad school. And I wouldn't have done that without the pandemic, I don't think. Um, and as for the album, um, I mean, yeah, you had so much free time to just rehearse and compose, and um, I also, yeah, I wouldn't have done it without the pandemic, just recording that album, because if I would have just been gigging, I wouldn't have found the time, or I didn't feel the need to really record something and put something out. But then when everything's kind of still, you feel like, okay, now is the time to document something.
Yeah.
um,
Well,
um,
yeah, so it's your debut album. It's all originals. Um, was there any pressure? This is like your real shout into the jazz world? How are you going into it with that feeling? Because it came out on March 14th, correct?
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how has it felt?
It felt good to finally have something out. And the funny thing is, it was recorded a few years before releasing it in March, actually.
Yeah.
It was recorded in Cologne during the pandemic, and then because I didn't have a label or anything, it was all on me with releasing it and doing the administrative work. And just so many things happened. I moved to New York and I got so busy that I kind of forgot about it a little bit, which is, yeah, it's unfortunate, but now I'm really happy to release that as a little, like a time document. It's like this was me in Cologne, before the pandemic, before New York, and I'm really proud of it, and it sounds awesome. Um, yeah, every jazz musician I talk to is always like, I mean, your very first album is always gonna be something, that's not representing you as you would like,
Yeah.
because usually it happens early in your career and you develop so much right after that usually. um So I heard of people being hesitant of releasing a first album anyways, or not doing a big deal about it. But because it's been a couple years, I feel like now I'm even more confident of presenting it because, hey, that's me then, and this is my thing, and
Yeah.
that's pre-New York Finn, you know.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, there was a lot of pressure just being a band leader for the first time and organizing everything. But I had a great group with me that was supportive and they also contributed a lot, you know, composition wise. The thing with the album is that it's 5 tracks and each track is composed by one of the band members actually. Um, I had other compositions that I did myself that we also recorded, but in the end, these 5 made it on the album, which I felt, you know, the best about. And I think it's a good way of representing that team effort aspect in that ensemble.
So take me back to your beginnings in Germany. How did the drums become the instrument, and how did jazz evolve into your career in being in New York now?
That's a good question because yeah, it sounds far-fetched and jazz isn't really a common or rooted thing in Germany as much as here in the US.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I started playing around with the drums when I was 4, and the reason for that is because my dad, he's an engineer, but he's a hobby drummer, and he there was always like a rock drum kit in the family home basement. So it was accessible. That was the first main reason why I was able to play at all. And same with my brother. He's 2 years younger than I am, and he's also a jazz drummer. He's in Berlin. He's doing the exact same thing. He
Cool.
also started because of that, um, which is really cool. Um, I wish he would be a bass player, or I would be a bass player and he would be a drummer. Then we
Yeah,
could play
right.
together.
Right.
We can't really do a family band with 3 drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, that was. I mean, and then of course, not just that, but my parents had really cool CDs that I like listening to. You know, Queen, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and all that stuff was really influential on me, and I just played along with it, and it was awesome, and I really enjoyed it. And then when I was 7, I got a really great drum teacher who was really supportive and pushed me in all the ways, and also um, pushed me in some, you know, like uh, Afro-Cuban music
Yeah.
directions and also jazz. So that was already a kind of a good, uh, you know, I learned a lot about these styles that I would later love. But then it didn't. Yeah, when I was 16, I think I got in touch with jazz for the first time. Before that, it was just classical music or funk, you know, but always playing only by myself to a playback or in a classical ensemble, not really improvising with other humans. Um, and then, yeah, a friend of mine gave me like a little flash drive with a jazz playlist he made. And that was the first time that I listened to jazz, really. And I still remember it was, yeah, Sonny Rollins, St. Thomas, Cute was on it. I forgot who played it. There Will Never Be Another You by Bud Powell.
Yeah.
It was still, I would create the playlist today because all these tracks are so great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not something weird. And I just really loved how it sounded. It sounded really mysterious. You know, you wouldn't hear it on the radio. It's just uh, so different to what you hear all the time, or to what everyone in school listens to.
So, with that spark of loving jazz, what was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away, that just furthered that conviction for you to want to be on stage, to come to the Mecca of jazz in New York? Who was that?
I I think a performance very early on I remember is when my dad took me to see that drummer Manu Katché
Yeah,
in Ulm. I forgot what the band was. It was a kind of fusion jazz thing,
yeah,
but that was the very first concert I saw in that field that blew me away, and it was so awesome.
that's
um,
cool.
yeah, I still listen to him a lot. It's great. Um, yeah, and then you naturally gravitate towards there's like I grew up in an 800 inhabitants town, and in the cities around it there was of course also no one really that did jazz in my age group. And then there's workshops where you have teachers and meet other jazz fanatics, and then naturally you would go on to study that and get some get in some kind of statewide orchestras and big bands and stuff, and then it's a pretty natural path that then happens. Um,
So let me ask you this. Now that you've got this career, you're in New York, you're a musician, you got your album out. What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What motivates you?
I Yeah, I sometimes forget about that, but I have to. Um, it's because you get used to it. But when I think about other jobs, I realize I have it. I almost everything I do for work or in my life is always connected to being at the instrument or talking or doing something regarding music, which I love, and and I don't take that now. I don't take that for granted, but when you see how you could have some other job that you hate, it's crazy how lucky I am in that regard. Um, it it took a while rediscovering, why I love music and finding that initial spark from my childhood. That's a story that a lot of people can tell you. I think doing studying music and conservatory gets really theoretical and competition is there and all that, and you kind of forget why you love music. But now, coming out of school, I relearned that, and even more appreciate that I can just make a living with music. And another big thing is I only I'm only around people that I really like and that are like-minded. There's no weird coworkers or bosses. Everyone's kind of in the same headspace, and I really love that. And communicating with them through music in real life. Yeah, just being to express yourself on a regular basis, and it's always something grounded. It's always the great thing about being a musician is it's always analog to how you play is always how you are. So you're always forced to work on yourself. Sounds a bit scary, but it's a really good thing. It's really wholesome, and um, I'm missing the word. It applies to all areas of life, which is really natural and grounded. I feel like
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does. Let me ask you this. What was the first stage that you played on when you finally got to New York where you were like, wow, I can't believe this is happening?
That's that's a spectrum. There's so many little bar gigs that you wouldn't play anymore now, which you would. But when you first moved to New York, you're like, oh, it's a gig in New
Yeah.
York, nice, a
Yeah.
$25 gig uh, in a bar with bad sound. Um, oh, well, the one of the well, I played at Carnegie Hall once.
Wow.
That was a little milestone thing where I thought, oh wow, I'm actually here now.
Yeah.
that that sounds. I mean, that was part of like the scholarship I had from Germany. They have a yearly presentation of their grantees. So it's not that I was invited as an individual artist to perform there,
Right.
but still, I got to play there and be on that stage, and that felt awesome.
That's awesome.
And there
Yeah.
you actually realize, wow, it's actually the thing here. I'm in New York. Um, yeah, I have to name that one.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. You've dedicated your life to this music. So ultimately, at the end of the day, why do you love jazz?
Because it feels so natural. It's so everything you strive for in that music feels like it's always been in the world and in humanity. Um, it's communication, democracy. It's many things that come together. Creating in a community effort, creating being in the moment and creating something that's just beautiful and doesn't harm anyone. That's just something really that doesn't happen in other jobs or styles of music sometimes. Um, yeah, just being able to express yourself and being in the moment with other people, and everyone strives towards creating something beautiful, yeah, on the canvas of time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I dig it.
yeah, it's just I have to Google that word real quick.
Yeah, no, you're good. And
Uh,
while you're doing that, I want to know, this being your debut album, your real statement, first album statement in the world of jazz, what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
I hope it inspires the listener to dream and to go some imaginary places. It 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 doesn't have to be the ones that I associate when listening to it, or that I wanted to the landscapes that I wanted to create. It's up to the listener. Whatever the listener feels like when listening to it is great. It should just spark the imagination and just let the listener go into a little dream world apart from the real life and
Yeah,
all day stuff, where you can dream or think about, I don't know, just a gravity-less zone where you
yeah,
can live in an ideal universe or
yeah.
something.
I dig it. I love that answer. So if anyone wants to pick up a copy, they want to catch you live, any of the good news in your world, where do they go?
Um, Instagram, I have to say, is the best. That's Finn Wiest Drums, FINNWIEST Drums, or my website, finnwiest.com.
And I will put all of that in the show notes. Finn, thank you for reaching out. I love this. I love your story. Best of luck with the album. Hopefully, we'll run into each other down the line, and you have a
Hopefully.
long, prosperous career in New York.
One more thing, I found the word. It's holistic. It's
Holistic.
all
That
holistic. Yeah.
that makes sense. So we'll reference that. Everybody remember that for just back on the timeline a little bit. No, that's great. Yeah, again, man, it was great to meet you. Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Yeah,
It was a real pleasure.
Hey, jazz fans, Joe Domino here, the host of the weekly Neon Jazz radio show and regular interview series being produced and distributed from Lee Summit, Missouri. We are very excited to let you know about the second annual Lee Summit Jazz Festival taking place again this summer on June 28th at the Bridge Space, located at 210 Southwest Market Street in downtown Lee Summit. Following the success of the 2024 festival, the lineup will include Lee Summit students, KC Area Youth Jazz, Paganova with Michael Pagan, Horoscope with Stan Kessler, Brad Gregory, Adam Larson, and the Lee Summit Jazz Orchestra. There will also be food trucks and vendors to round out a day of celebration. Early bird tickets are 2 for $30, and all details can be found at lsjazzfest.com. We can't wait to see you there.